Hello, everyone.
I understand it's waiting quietly here.
Patiently waiting.
Okay, I can see that video there. I don't know if there's a like by a plus one.
I think we can just go ahead, Eoin. Yep, our sound is working and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good to go. Hello, everyone. Hello, Facebook. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Saib. I'm the Regional Development Officer with Migraine Association of Ireland. And we are very thankful for Eoin Burns, who is joining us today, who's going to go through some Buteyko breathing. So I'll let Eoin take over and introduce himself.
Hi, yeah, I'm Eoin Burns. I teach people how to breathe, which sounds like a really strange thing to do. And quite a lot of the time people get it wrong and they think I'm a breathing coach and they really wonder how that is going. But actually I just teach people how to breathe, and rather than it be something that your breathing is your breathing, which has been told to me, your breathing is actually trainable. So like any muscle that we have, the more you train it, the better you get at something, you know. So you can actually use your breath to recover from quite a lot of different conditions. And the main part is where, particularly at a time like now, where you have stress as a major component in people's distress, I suppose. And it also is a great ratcheter of illness. So when you're stressed, your symptoms, particularly in areas like migraine and in areas like mental health and in other symptoms, where when you're stressed, you have far increased symptoms. So I was chatting to you, Saib, there about a car. It's been a bit like an accelerator. So your breathing can be an accelerator for your condition and your symptoms. So by using your breathing, you can actually learn to take your foot off the gas and just go back to idle mode, you know, so where the engine is just ticking over. And that's where we're nice and calm and relaxed. And there's no great revs going on, where you can actually learn to keep your condition under control, particularly where you don't have access to your normal relief, you know. So yeah, that's basically it, you know. So that's where I'm coming from. I've given talks before in Tralee, in Thurles, in Clare and Ennis, and also in Dublin, and the Migraine Association of Ireland. So a great shout out to Pat there for having me involved. And yeah, I hope I can be of some benefit today. Will I just work away then, Saib, or what way do you want me to do things?
Yeah, I think you can go ahead. We have a few people online now, and okay, from what I'm told, the sound is good.
Okay.
If there are any issues during it, please send a message or just let us know. I'm going to try and keep track of that during it, so Eoin can just present.
Somewhere along the lines it says both 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. It probably says 2 p.m. Maybe for Greenwich Mean Time. So we're in Irish summertime, so yeah, Greenwich Mean Time is actually 2 p.m. But we moved our clocks forward, so we're Greenwich Mean Time 2 p.m. But that's 3 p.m. in Ireland. Yeah, I don't know what else it says on the page, so I'm not checking it at the moment.
Okay, I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to move over and share the screen here. Or do you want me to start yet, Saib, or what way do you want me to do it? Are people on board there?
Yeah,
or something?
You can go ahead. Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. I'm going to pop out some here like this here, or I'll do that. I'm not sure which way it works best, but I will click on this here. Okay. I was clicking on that. Okay, that's a bit better. And now I can't see myself. Okay, so just as this is a workshop here, and I will click it on. on here. Just trying to work out all the different bits of technology. So how does your breathing affect you? So I work with people in those areas. Sport is a major interest area of mine, and much like in sport, breathlessness is an issue in other aspects of our life. For example, where it's one of the common symptoms at the moment with the coronavirus. You know, so we're trying not to be breathless. So I would have been breathless all my life, and it's actually something that we're trying not to be breathless. So in the area of your body, your immune system is a massive component with your breathing. So you have filtration, and the immune system starts at the tip of your nose. You have an open barn door here where you're breathing through your mouth. So where you're breathing through your mouth, you're bypassing your immune system and its initial response. So that has a major effect then on hay fever, sinusitis, and tiredness. So there's a large amount of tiredness out there at the moment, which is related to stress and how that has an effect on you. So where you big breathe all day, you big breathe at night, and you can have sleep issues then occur that you don't normally have, or you can have worsening symptoms that you wouldn't normally have. So in relation to your mind, so the whole area of stress and anxiety and panic is one that I'm very familiar with. And then that has a huge impact then on your mind. I suppose with migraine, you consider your mind, you know, so it's in that area, the mind and the body together with migraine. I'm just going to skip on then. So the real facts of life, touching my nose. It's amazing how much when you're conscious of touching your nose, how much you do it, or your face. So the real facts of life there. We can go without food for 60 days. We can go with water for about 10 days, and we can go without air typically for 3 to 5 minutes before we end up in trouble. People who are really good at breathing can go without air for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. You know, so it's actually something that we don't really realize that there's a skill involved in that. So people who go, there's a guy, Stig Severinsen, in 2010, he's the first guy to go over 20 minutes on a single breath hold. He's somewhere around 22.5 minutes in terms of a breath hold. So that's a seriously long time to go with just one breath. So we're very poorly adapted, and we have become less well adapted over the years in relation to our breathing. So how long we can do without air is a key metric for health, actually. So how do you recognize overbreathing? So in this picture here, just the mouth open to me is a position of overbreathing or breathing too much. So where do I come from with this? I would have spent my whole life, for the first 30 odd years of my life, breathing only to my mouth, oblivious to my breathing, and that was just the way I breathed it, and that was it. So when I changed, it was a big change for me, and actually I was very skeptical that it would have any benefit. And here I am 17 years later teaching people how to do it, you know, particularly at a time like this. But anyway, recognize overbreathing. So where your mouth is open, you're breathing too much. Where you're here, you're breathing during rest, you're breathing too much. A sigh every 5 minutes is enough to be breathing too much. Okay, it's just a signal, an early warning sign that you're breathing too much. So it's not this big hyperventilation that people sort of are familiar with. I think other view screen. I don't know, it's probably not as good. There's another one that's better. Yeah, so a sniff is actually when you sniff, you may have some mucus in your nose that actually moves. Large breaths prior to talking. So that's what people commonly do now is they go, they take a big breath in, and that's bypassing your filter. So if you're out in the street and you're 2 meters away from somebody, you go, you're actually bypassing your filter. So instead of breathing in here in your personal space, which is below you, about 6 inches out from your chest, and in this space here, instead of breathing from there, you're breathing from many meters away and across the room. So taking large breaths prior to talking, it's one of the harder things to actually change, particularly if you're used to talking a lot. So instead of breathing in through your mouth, I'm actually breathing into my nose and continuing to talk. And, you know, occasionally I'll have a mouth breath, but that's okay too. Yawning a big breath, so you don't need to yawn. You don't need to breathe when you yawn. Upper chest movements, you're trying to move from breathing up here to breathing down at your belly. Lots of visible movements. So when your shoulders are moving as well when you breathe, you're up in 3 and 4 times, 3 and 4 times too much breath that you're doing every minute at rest, and that increases then as you go along, you know. So if you go and take exercise, then that actually that doesn't help. You just breathe more. So here again now, so this is just this is some more on the medical side of things. I'm not going to really go through that much, but at rest we're meant to breathe 4 to 6 liters. You can get down to 2 liters per minute. Typically, asthmatics breathe 12 to 15 liters. They've actually done trials, medical trials, confirming the level of breathing typically among the general society and population, and also then with people with medical conditions. And they found the people who breathe through their mouth breathe 12 to 15 liters a minute. And this makes a huge difference then on our overall health. So we're ventilated, we're pushing an awful lot of air, and breathing is actually something that's in reverse. So when you want to get more oxygen in, and particularly where you're feeling unwell, when you want to get more oxygen in, our tendency is to breathe more. And I tried this for over 10 years myself, to breathe more to get more oxygen in. I was going to oxygenate myself to treat my underlying asthma, and it actually doesn't work. It's counterproductive. There's a gas law there, and what happens is the more you breathe, the less oxygen you deliver. So back to the sports side of things, where you get somebody with sports and they're breathing 50 to 60 times a minute through their mouth, kind of horrendous breathing, might be very noisy. You can switch them from 50 to 60 times a minute breathing through their mouth back down to 12 or 14 times breathing through their nose. So it's breathing in and breathing out while running or cycling or doing any sport up to Olympic level. It's not. It's just far greater efficiency with the delivery of oxygen. So the lower part of your lungs in this diagram here, the lower part of the lungs deliver far more oxygen than the upper part. And that's just a little schematic. It's quite nice. And it just shows what the lungs look like on the inside. It's like a little tree or a fern or a tree upside down, I suppose. But just down to the bottom, to the edge of those, they're all little sacs called alveoli where your gas exchange happens. Sorry, clicking on the wrong page, wrong screen. So carbon dioxide, this is the release gas for oxygen. So breathing is absolutely not just about oxygen. Delivery of oxygen is all about carbon dioxide. So when your carbon dioxide levels are low, you get poor peripheral oxygenation of your cells. This affects your brain. So I'm going to skip down a couple of slides here. Okay, so it's actually go past that as well. This one here. Okay, so this slide here is a slide on normal breathing and hyperventilation. So it's somebody in a CAT scan. The normal breathing on the left is the electrical activity. So the brighter the area here, the more electrical activity in your brain. So what happens when you breathe too much? So after 1 minute of hyperventilation, so some guy in a CAT scan, he's breathing normally initially with all this lovely electrical activity and normal circulation in the brain. And it's 1 minute of breathing heavily. So it's just like that for 1 minute. And you can see that it's kind of lights out for your brain. So your carotid arteries, which supply blood to your brain, they squeeze and restrict by 50%. That gives you 25% oxygen to your brain. So when we breathe too heavily, the lights go out and we can't really cope. So this stressful breathing is what we're giving ourselves a low-grade stress all the time when we breathe too much. And where we slow down our breathing and calm our breathing and calm everything else, everything calms down. And that actually makes a huge difference then to us up in our head for how we think, but a huge difference again then for migraineurs to actually have proper circulation going on and steady circulation. What happens where we have fluctuations and big gulps of air where we go is that has a squeeze effect in our brain, and that can cause a cascade effect in our head in relation to panic and discomfort, but also possibly for migraine. Okay, just going to go back again. So what are we doing applying quarter past? Okay. So how do we on the carbon dioxide side of things? What does it do? It helps to relax the smooth muscle of blood vessels and airways. So that's actually a great tool. So we classically believe that carbon dioxide, we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide, and it's a waste gas. Actually, carbon dioxide is really, really important within our body, and it's really important that we retain it. All our cells produce carbon dioxide, which is great when they're working aerobically, particularly. And so we get oxygen in and food, and we produce energy, carbon dioxide, and water. So it's a very efficient little system there. And what we're trying to do is increase our carbon dioxide to improve our delivery of oxygen. So the first step here to correct your breathing is to become aware of when you big breathe. So notice when your mouth is open. Notice when you can hear your breathing. At a great level of a very great efficiency of breathing, you shouldn't even be able to feel your breathing. Notice when you're sighing regularly or sniffing, or when your mouth is open. When you reduce your airways, when you reduce your breathing, your airways dilate, and that has a great effect in terms of feeling warm. So that's one of the symptoms there that we have of poor breathing, is that you feel warm. And we all sometimes, well, we all know people who would feel cold all the time. And I've changed from somebody who used to feel the cold more than most to feeling warmer than most. Your nose is a massively important here now. So so the bit that you can see of our nose is just this bit here in profile. That's not really what happens with our nose. So that's a section through your nose. So you've got your bridge of your nose there. You have your tip of your nose. And you have all these little holes then that are at the back. There's holes here in your sinuses, and people would have sinus problems as well as having migraine. And these other holes, which I can't point to on the screen, which I am pointing to, but they're all little sinus cavities, and they've tubes that come back into your nose, and they produce nitric oxide when they're clear. And nitric oxide is really, really, really important at the moment. So they use a nitric oxide to treat people with coronavirus. It was found in 2003 to impede the progression or the multiplication of the SARS virus. Now, coronavirus, as it's called, or COVID-19 as it's called, is actually called SARS-CoV-2. So it's the SARS virus 2. They're trying not to label it that, but it's a SARS virus. And in 2003, they found in vitro, which means in a lab on a petri dish, but they found that it inhibited the multiplication of the virus. So we produce this in our nose. This is a really, really important function that we can all treat ourselves to nitric oxide, which helps to kill and to stop the virus from multiplying. So we've all these sensors inside in our nose, and the virus gets attracted there, and we can actually kill it off with nitric oxide or slow its progression, rate of progression, if we do catch it. So what way can we enhance the production? First of all, we need to clear our nose, which is really important. And second of all, then humming is a great tool to actually slow down your breathing. And when you slow down your breathing enough, the humming actually vibrates your sinuses, and you bring nitric oxide into your breath. And then when you breathe in, the nitric oxide is distributed in your airway. So if our nose is blocked, we don't get this nitric oxide effect, and we also bypass our filter. So back onto the slide here, I'll just go through that first and then just explain a little bit more. But so it acts as a filter for 3/4 of the germs and bacteria. So when we breathe in, it gets blocked here in our filter, and when we breathe out, we breathe back out through our filter. So what we're doing is our filter is like a screen from us from the rest of the world. So we're breathing in, it's in our filter. That's why when you breathe out your mouth, you end up with a clogged filter here, and your nose starts to run and block, and you end up breathing in and out through your mouth. So people who breathe and believe they should breathe into the nose and out to the mouth while doing sports, this is an improvement on that, and it's actually far better for you. When you do it, when you start to exercise initially, it's 2 or 3 weeks, your nose will run more than usual, and you just have to slow down to actually tolerate and accept that. That slow progress as it feels, and it feels like running with the handbrake on. However, you do get through it eventually. It blocks out dust mites, animal dander, pollen. So these are all critical factors that trigger people's sinusitis, blocked nose, hay fever, perennial rhinitis. These are all things that can actually be alleviated by learning how to breathe correctly. So they did a test on a nasal breathing dust mites, and they found that where you breathe to your nose, you breathe them in, breathe them out, and you eliminate them in 15 minutes. Where you breathe into your mouth, barn door breathing, they can be in your lungs then for 2 to 4 months. It's a massive difference in the burden then for your body to actually deal with it. So just in brief summary then, your nose warms and moistens the air, it regulates the volume, helps your teeth and gums. So your saliva, if your mouth is closed, your saliva is the first line of defense for your teeth. So just to go back then to unblocking your nose. So unblocking your nose, most people actually can breathe through their nose. So you can check it out with your nostrils. You can breathe through your nostril, see if it's clear, and then the other nostril. See which is clear, which is not. If you're breathing through your nose, if you're not breathing through your nose is blocked, and you want to clear it up. There's a nose unblocking technique, and you got to do this kind of gently when you suffer with migraine. It's kind of tough. So what you do is you take a gentle breath into your nose, a gentle breath out your nose. You pinch your nose, and you nod your head up and down until you feel you need to breathe. If you don't have an underlying, now you'll be holding your breath. And then you breathe in through your nose. And what happens there is the mucus that's up behind here goes back down your throat, and you can catch it here in your throat, and you can spit it out if you're at home, or you can swallow it, and your stomach acid deals with it. What you're doing is you're clearing your airway, and you're triggering this emergency response from your body that there's something up with my breathing, I need to breathe. So that actually is great. It's great to go from having your mouth open to having your mouth closed, and to be able to gently breathe in and out through your nose is really important. So you may have to do that 5 times. So you give yourself a break for about 30 seconds, and then you repeat. Again, if your nose is completely blocked, which mine would have been back in 2003. So if your nose is completely blocked, you take your breath into your mouth, breath out your mouth. And then when you need to, you breathe in through your nose. And that's a great way of establishing nasal breathing when you're mouth breathing 24/7. Where you're mouth breathing 24/7, your breathing volume, your breathing is going to be upper chest. Typically, your head is going to be forward as well. It has an effect on your posture. And when you're breathing up here, you're going to have impaired sleep. So even if you think you have had a great night's sleep, for example, and you've 10 out of 10, I can turn my hands to actually, yeah. You have 10 out of 10. When you're mouth breathing and sleeping, your sleep quality, even when it's 10 out of 10, is actually probably a 6 out of 10. So you can unlock the 7, 8s, and 9s out of 10 by breathing calmly and gently during the day. So you breathe calmly and gently at night, and you improve your sleep. So a few other tips in relation to your breathing. So when you unblock your nose, you need to practice then just breathing through your nose. That can be kind of a panicky situation can develop as well, particularly if you're used to breathing through your mouth. All of a sudden you feel, God, I can't breathe enough, and you go, and your mouth opens. That's okay, that's going to happen initially. You would be better off trying only to breathe through your nose. So a really helpful tip with that is, where is your tongue? So your tongue is meant to be at the roof of your mouth, the top of the roof of your mouth. And what happens when you breathe through your mouth is your tongue develops a new position in the middle of your mouth, or at the lower part of your mouth. And that makes your jaw really heavy. So your tongue is down low, and you breathe through your mouth anyway. So it makes our face kind of long. And then at night, particularly where we lie on our back, our jaw is heavy. So our mouth opens at night, and we breathe through our mouth, and we have poor sleep. So to actually work with your tongue, what you do is you put your tongue where you say nah. Nah. It's up at the top of your mouth, and it's meant to be curved up the back of the soft palate, so that your tongue then pulls your jaw forward and up and out of the way. So when you're during the day, that's something that you can do. You can actually reposition your tongue. It's great for you. It makes breathing very easy, because you can't breathe through your tongue basically. So where you can't breathe through your tongue, you're going to be breathing through your nose, and quickly you can go to be a default nose breather instead of a default mouth breather. So that makes a big difference. The other thing then is to do very gentle, relaxed breathing exercises. So the exercise that I would recommend is every 15 seconds to hold your breath. And initially, where you're really struggling, so if you're really feeling, God, this is so uncomfortable, I can't do it, you hold your breath for 1 second. So just 1 second, you're just putting a pause of 1 second on your breathing. So this works to stop a panic attack. So a panic attack is a really distressing and severe episode in your body. And what you're trying to do there is put half a second of control into your out breath. So you can actually slow down the breathing and use that to slow down your heart and increase the blood supply around your body, and to relax and recover. And the quicker you do it, the better. So when you're feeling like, I've unblocked my nose and it's now not going to work very well, you can actually just put in a pause. So I'll do that for about a minute. So I'm just going to get to turn on my clock function on my phone briefly, and I'm just going to describe it. So you take a gentle breath into your nose, a gentle breath out through your nose, and you hold your breath. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in again, and you hold for, you're breathing in and out normally here for about 12 seconds. So then you're going to breathe gently in, gently out, and hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, and release. Then you breathe gently in, gently out your nose, hold your breath. 1, 2, 3. So all I'm doing there is I'm counting the breaths on the 0, 15, 30, 45, and 0 again. Gentle breath in, gentle breath out. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3. Breathe normally again to recover. Gentle breath in, gentle breath out. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3. So if you found 3 seconds there too difficult, then reduce it back to 2 seconds. And if you find 2 seconds too difficult, reduce it back to 1 second. And try and build yourself up to 5 seconds every 15 seconds. That might take you 8 or 10 minutes if you're starting at 1 or 2 seconds. But at the end of that 8 or 10 minutes, you'll actually feel calmer and more relaxed. A great way to do that is to smile, which I probably wasn't doing. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to smile while you do it. And if you're listening to an audio, you can just close your eyes. That actually helps you to concentrate. When you smile, close your eyes, you can just sort of focus on your breathing and you cut more stuff off that's going on in your periphery. Okay, so another exercise that you can do is called the 36 breaths. So that's a really great exercise. And that's where you hold your breath on the out breath, and you do 3 breaths on your thumb, you do 3 breaths on your finger. I will actually increase the size of the screen there. So I'm just going to hold this. We're going to hold the tip of your finger or your thumb, then your finger, and then we're going to be holding the center of our palm. It's a very relaxed exercise. You can do this. It's great if you feel panicky and nervousy when you're out. You're holding your hands. If you're walking along, that's fine. Obviously, if you're driving, it's a little bit of a challenge. Do it without holding your hands, but do the same thing. It's great where you close your eyes. I'm going to go do this. Breathing in and out through your nose. So I'm going to do this 36 breaths. It takes 2.5, 3 minutes. It's to try and slow down your breathing.
Just one quick question, sorry, just for the exercise. It's Jared just wants to know, do we pause when our lungs are empty?
Well, our lungs are never empty anyway, because but like that's a great question. You pause when you breathe out. So it's only so when I train sports teams and I tell them to take a gentle breath in and a gentle breath out, in the usual testosterone fueled sports situation, they decide if a gentle breath is good, then a huge breath is much better. So they, instead of a gentle breath in, which I'm demonstrating, which is just a little sniff in, little sniff out, and that's it. So that's it. A little gentle in, gentle out. So you've only released a tiny bit of your volume of your lungs. So we have a dead space here. So this dead space, when you breathe in and breathe out, even when it's you're doing big volume breathing, that dead space it gets exchanged, but that dead space is there. So when you breathe, if you breathe out and you breathe in, you still have air between here and all the way down in your tubes. So you're just taking a tiny little breath in, tiny little breath out, and holding then. So we don't need to empty our lungs. Empty our lungs is big breathing, and it actually is counterproductive. So what we're trying to do instead is do far, far gentler breathing, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. So your breathing volume, I can probably draw it on a page quickly here. It's a good question, Ger, and people are more used to doing excessive breathing. So instead of So what we're trying to do, this is mouth breathing here. A big breath in, a little, or we're going the other way, a little breath in and whatever going along. Instead, what we're trying to do is this top is sort of a gentle breath in, a gentle breath in, a gentle breath out, a gentle breath in, and a gentle breath out. And we're just trying to reduce and stabilize our breathing. So our breathing should be within a narrow band, tiny in, tiny out, and that's it. That's all you need to breathe. In fact, if I demonstrate here, that the breath on the crack of the side of my fingers here, is all the breath I need to breathe for the rest of my life. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to suffocate myself within a short space of time. That's for a long, happy life. That's all the breath that I need. We're used to thinking we need to take these big, huge breaths. And what happens there, it's a development from breathe into your nose and out your mouth. Breathe in, out. What happens is the breath in isn't enough through our nose, so we breathe in explosively, then in nose and then part mouth. So, and then out. And very quickly, for people who would protest and say, I breathe through my nose the whole way through my exercise, in actual fact, after 45 seconds or a couple of minutes, they're actually going, even though they're breathing a little bit in through their nose, it's only a tiny fraction, whereas you're meant to be actually filtering and conditioning all of your air, so you're breathing into your nose and breathing out. And that's how you can breathe at very advanced sporting levels. So, and we're talking about relaxation here. So big breathing is counterproductive for relaxation. So when you pause and your lungs are empty, it's a little breath in, a little breath out, your lungs are practically full. So instead of having, if you were a tank of, and I'll have to develop that. If you imagine yourself and you're doing a scuba tank, okay? So if you're doing a scuba tank and you have a scuba tank of air on this side here, when you're full, you're up at this level here, and when you do a little nasal breath out, you're at that level here, okay? Instead, if you take a big mouth breath, you fill yourself down to that level, so you're going around with half a tank. With nasal breathing, you're keeping your tank almost full all the time. So I'm drawing upside down and backwards, but here, so you're breathing in and you're breathing out. And so you're only using a tiny portion of air, but you're keeping a full tank with you the whole time. I hope that's a good explanation. So 36 breaths anyway, I'll just go through that. So you're going to be holding your tip of your thumbs and tips of your fingers, and then the center of the middle of your hand, and you're just going to smile and relax, and I'm going to close my eyes as well while doing this and talk you through it. So you take a gentle breath into your nose and a relaxed breath out. Gentle breath into your nose and relaxed breath out. Gentle breath into your nose and relaxed breath out. Holding your left thumb, gentle breath into your nose and relaxed breath out. Gentle breath into your nose and relaxed breath out. Gentle breath into your nose and relaxed breath out. The right first finger, gentle breath into your nose and relaxed breath out. Gentle breath into your nose and relaxed breath out. Gentle breath into your nose and relaxed breath out. Left hand first finger, gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Little finger right hand, gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose. Little finger on your left hand, gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Little finger on your right hand, gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose, relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose. Ring finger on your left hand, gentle breath into your nose. Relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose. Relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose. Relax breath out. Little finger on your right hand, gentle breath into your nose. Relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose. Relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose. Relax. Little finger on your left hand, gentle breath into your nose. Relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose. Relax breath out. Gentle breath into your nose. Relax breath out. Middle of of your palm and your right hand, gentle breath into your nose. Gentle breath into your nose. Gentle breath into your nose. Last three, center of your palm, left hand, gentle breath into your nose. Gentle breath into your nose. Gentle breath into your nose. So that exercise should actually calm. It actually did for me there now anyway. So, and I have to focus my eyes from being closed for the couple of minutes. But where you calm and relax your breathing, it's great for actually dealing with pain. It's great for dealing with feeling stressed, anxious, worried, alone, confined. We are best off to be exercising as much as possible. So if that's inside in your own garden or inside in your own house, so be it. You know, you have to do with as much as you can with what you've got. So walking up and down the stairs, can you do it just breathing in and out to your nose? If you have to open your mouth, slow down, breathe your nose, recover, and go again. And your body develops the ability to actually exercise while breathing only to your nose. Initially, it will be a little bit slower, and that's fine. That's just adaptation. So you've got a muscle. If you imagine it like a muscle that hasn't been used correctly in a long time, and you're learning to use that a little bit better. So it's going to take a little bit of time to actually to manage with it. So the hardest times there for and thanks Con and Mairead for saying it's super calming. That's what it is. Your breath is really, really calming. And at this time, it's a great defense mechanism as well. So by protecting yourself, you can actually boost and improve your breathing, and that actually boosts and improves how you know. I believe it makes a massive difference to how well your immune system goes and how well you deal with your underlying condition, whether that is just stress or whether you have a headache function or a migraine function on top of it. It's actually just to keep everything at a lovely calm level. Make sure that you can actually respond rather than react, so that you're actually in you're of a calmer disposition. It's like unlocking the calmer version of yourself from within yourself, or the better version of yourself. Where you're calmer, that comes out more often, you know. So yeah, that's actually great. So the hard times are when you're breathing. So to breathe into your nose when you're talking, to breathe into your nose before you're speaking. So a great way of doing this is actually to read out loud. So for example, I'm just going to pick up something here. It will be about migraine. It's an extract from the paper from back a few months ago there. How to battle every kind of headache. It's from the Daily Mail from October 15th, so you probably remember that side. And so this is just a reading practice here now, but I'm just going to read something that may be relevant, you know. So I will actually see. Migraine attacks. This is on page 6 from it. This is just an example of how to read. So you read out loud to your kids. If you're at home and you're minding your kids at home, it's a great time to actually work on your breathing. So you're breathing into your nose. Migraine attacks, midbrain. Midbrain area, which is associated with vision, hearing, and motor control, is where migraines are thought to begin. Doctors believe that misfiring electrical signals in the midbrain fan out towards the peripheral nerves that run all over the head and into the face, causing pain. This also affects the main nerve in the face, the trigeminal nerve, seen in the picture in yellow. So I'm slowing it down there. So where you need to, in the middle of a sentence, you do. So where you come to a comma, you can take a sniff in, and it's a bit like a natural pause when you're talking. So over time, hi Killian, I see your see your comment there. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to actually bring it into how you breathe in conversation as much as you can. So initially, when I learned to change my breathing, I hadn't actually been given the tip of how to do that, or maybe I ignored it at the time because I learned so much. But so what you're trying to do is when you're breathing into your nose in the middle of a sentence, so you can just keep going, and with time, then you get greater fluency. The exercise, the one I've gone through, is where you're exercising. Breathe to your nose and you need to slow down initially. So where you're breathing to your nose is going to run, so it's going to feel, hang on, what's going on here? But it's just your nose is used to mucus is actually our friend. Mucus is a secondary barrier for our lungs. We need all the barriers we can get for our lungs. So but we need to be breathing to our nose where we've got natural filtration. So where you breathe into your nose, your mucus is actually, your mucus production reduces. When you're breathing into your mouth, you're bypassing your filters. So your lungs have to have some way of taking up this stuff out of your lungs. So they produce mucus in our lungs here, and in your nose. And what it is there is that the little ciliary hairs then trap the particles in the mucus, and then the hair-like effect brings them up to here where we go and we cough them out. And that actually makes a big difference. So where your mucus initially, your body has to get used to living in a cleaner environment where you're filtering your air all the time. So exercise is important when you talk and when you sleep then as well. What you're trying to do is you're trying to actually breathe in and out through your nose all night. So there are tips there in relation to that. So one of them is to not sleep on your back. Where we sleep on our back, we have that heavy jaw effect that I talked about earlier. Our jaw falls back, and it pushes, actually our jaw pushes the back of our tongue into our airway, and it also is heavy and it squeezes our air pipe. So we end up then with, you can end up having a lot of snoring going on with at the back of your throat because this area is being squashed in here like this, and that can lead to sleep apnea, which is not a good condition to develop. And what you want to do instead is pull your tongue forward, close your mouth, and ideally to sleep on your side, not to have big meals before you go to bed, and also then to sleep in a cool bedroom rather than a warm bedroom. So that's exercise, talking and sleeping. And then it's just to mind your breathing the rest of the time so that you're aware of when you're breathing through your nose. Little things there in relation to the coronavirus at the moment, and just generally in terms of catching infection. So coronavirus is a broadband term in relation to the crown viruses, so anything that affects this upper respiratory system. So I used to catch everything that was going, and when I changed my breathing, I went from being one of those that doesn't catch anything even when it's right on top of me or coughed at me. I wouldn't like to be putting that directly to the test at the moment, but basically when you're using your nose, you're slowing and calming down your breathing. So I would measure how long I can hold my breath for. So it's a simple test. So breathing in, out, and just holding your breath for as long as it feels comfortable. This is the figure that we're actually working on extending. So where your breath hold is low, you're going to be more susceptible to mouth breathing, more susceptible to being sick, and more susceptible to being sicker for longer. So where you develop a longer breath hold through practicing exercises, you end up having a super immunity and better immune system. So so where was I? I've forgotten my line of thought. But so you're trying to learn to breathe calmly throughout the day. So when you breathe calmly throughout the day, you breathe calmly at night. So there are a lot of different exercise techniques there that are available. The ones that involve mouth breathing, I would suggest, aren't really beneficial. You can do the same exercise just by protecting yourself, by having your mouth closed while doing it, and that makes a big difference. So I am wondering, Sai, if you want me to wrap up, or what way we want to do the question and answer here at the end here, Sai?
Well, I'm happy. We've had a few comments coming in, so thank you very much to everyone that has been looking on and commenting. I suppose I'll just leave it open if anyone watching has any questions or anything that they'd like to clarify. We can spend the next 5 minutes if you're happy.
I see a thing there. I see a thing there. I think I can show that. Yes, no, wrong one. Show. Liz says, if you're out for a good walk or exercise, best to nose breathe only. Yes, absolutely. Nose breathe only. If you've got headaches, you should absolutely have your mouth closed. You should learn to breathe through your nose. So I'd look at your profile pic and say you look under pressure there with your breathing, just from your profile pic, Liz. And so, yes, slow it all down. So where you're tolerating or not tolerating exercise, and this applies across the board actually, a lot of people don't think that exercise is not for them, and I don't mean just on headaches, they actually just feel that exercise is not for them. Why? What happens? When you're breathing through your mouth, your heart rate gets up really high. So what happens when your heart rate is up high, your heart is pumping like mad, and you're pushing yourself, and this becomes really uncomfortable. With your CO2 levels dropping, you get a less blood flow to your heart, and your heart becomes under pressure. You also get a situation where you have higher blood pressure, and so you become under more and more difficulty, and your body sends a signal to stop. This is dangerous. I'm really uncomfortable, and it tells you to stop, and it hurts you to stop you. And people think, oh yeah, I can't exercise, so I'm going to stop, and I'm never going to exercise again. It's not for me. It's unhealthy. My body isn't designed for exercise. I actually honestly believe that exercise is good for us all. We just need to learn how to breathe first, and then you'll actually crave exercise as opposed to hate exercise. And that's a huge driver, the mouth and breath and the effect on its heart. So back to Liz's question there in relation to worsening headaches with exercise. Yes, you're going too fast, pushing it. And a lot of the time we actually punish ourselves by trying to work harder. I'm fitter than that. I'm better than that. I'm faster than that other person. I'm not an old person, or whatever pejorative you want to use for yourself. Or I could go way quicker when I was younger. Why can't I do it now? And it's all beating ourselves for stuff. We actually need to slow down, enjoy it, enjoy looking at what's around you instead of trying to say, well, can I knock 3 seconds off my time, and just relax. So when you're out for good exercise, slow down, reach your nose only, Liz, and smile. Smile your way around, and nod and wave. Don't be talking on your way around, just nod and wave. So that actually is a great question. Thanks, Liz. Any other questions there that you noticed? Okay, I don't think there are that many.
The only other one, just a few people were wondering if there would be slides available that you have been using during this talk.
I can put together some of them there, yeah. Just notice there, Claire Bradley.
I know.
An exceptionally long toilet break. I'm good at those. So yeah, great. Yeah, so yeah, to unblock your nose is really important, Claire, and it will be available there. You'll be able to watch the other part of it. So it's actually concentrate on the gentleness of it. So if you're feeling that it's a struggle, go away from it for a few minutes and then just go back to it. It's a bit like your tongue. So the tongue position thing, which I was describing earlier, where you move your tongue up, that's actually like the tongue Olympics. So your tongue is actually going to be really, really tired. So you need to give yourself a break. Your tongue has been, lazing its way around for a long time here at the middle of your mouth or the bottom of your mouth, and all of a sudden you're going to get it to do work. And that's a lot of work. It's holding up your jaw. So it's pulling your jaw forward and up. That's what it's designed to do, but it just hasn't been doing it for so long. So again, your tongue has been lazy muscle, and it's been living there, and it's going to complain because now you're putting it to work. So it feels like the Snogging Olympics for about a month while you adjust the position of your tongue. So you're putting it at the tip of your tongue, where you say nah, that's where it touches, and then pushed up towards the top of your soft palate, and that's where your tongue is meant to be. But it is hard work, So again, if you're finding that that's tough to do, give yourself a break for 5 or 10 minutes and go back to doing it again.
Just another question for you.
Okay. Is it the Ger Griffin one, or?
Yeah, this is a new one from Ger.
This one, important to pause or hold after the out breath instead of the in breath, or does it make a difference? Yes, it does make a difference. You're training two systems when you hold after the out breath. You'll hold it for longer if you hold your breath after the in breath. It might be 40% longer. Yes, it does make a big difference. So the exercises the breath hold should be always after the out breath, not the in breath. So you're working on your CO2 tolerance. So when you breathe in, you have a fresh load of oxygen. Where you breathe out and then hold, you've got a depleted amount of oxygen, and you're actually working on your CO2 tolerance. So your body listens and looks out for your CO2 tolerance in order to tell you to breathe again. So you're trying to train that, and it's really important to actually train your CO2 tolerance. That actually that's the big driver for improving your breathing. Another thing I meant to actually say earlier there, in relation to masks. So, you know, there's a lot of noise about masks at the moment and whether they're recommended or not, and they're highly recommended for people in healthcare, but for people who have underlying conditions, I think it's important probably to have a look at the societal use of masks. So if like in the Czech Republic, they produced 10 million masks in 3 days on their sewing machines at home. It's a really impressive effort. But what that does is that if somebody has a cough and a cold, they're behind a screen here. So when they're coughing, even though it's, let's say, a scarf or it's a homemade mask, rather than a crocheted or knitted mask, which somebody was suggesting earlier wouldn't really be very effective, but some people are having great fun in making them. But a crocheted mask, I wouldn't think would hold back much. But even if it's just stopping the transmission of 50% of stuff, that's a lot less transmission, you know. And if everybody was wearing a mask and coughing in here, then that would make a difference. When you're wearing a mask, it's really important how you breathe behind it. So it's something that isn't really noted by people, or by people even in the healthcare service. When you're breathing through a mask, it's a false sense of security. You need to be breathing through your nose behind your mask. So when you've got your mask on and you have it here and it's over your face, air will come in on the side here if the mask isn't fitted properly, and if you're breathing heavily to your mouth and you push a big breath and you brush it out, it'll lift off the mask a little bit and other air actually comes in. So you believe you're fully filtered and protected from it, you're not. So where you have a mask on, you're breathing in and out, sounding a little bit like Darth Vader to your own hearing, but that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to breathe in and out through your nose. So you're reducing down the volume of your breathing, so that when you're taking off your mask, when you're exposed, where little bits creep in, they're still filtered, and that makes a big difference. Not missing Phoenix that much, Roger. Seeing as I live there, I'm still getting in, so that's actually great. Any other questions there, or anything you'd like me to run over, Saif?
No, I think we're good. I haven't seen any other questions come in.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah.
No, I think we can let you go, Eoin. Thank you so much.
You're fantastic. Yep, that's brilliant.
Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Okay,
I know lots of people would have benefited from it as well. And a lot of great techniques and coping skills that we can all use.
Yeah.
So you have a last second question.
Do they help with vertigo? They do a bit, all right. I'm not sure if you're Mark Benjamin, is that, or Benjamin Mark? Do they help with vertigo? They do, yeah. So it's just calming and bringing everything back into balance, you know. So it helps quite a lot actually around your body, you know. So yeah, thanks. Pick on another one. You're very welcome, Patrick. Work calls. Okay, yeah, great, brilliant. Okay, that's good, Saif. Well, that worked very well, and I'm available there when you want me to do some more.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Eoin. We really appreciate it, and stay safe.
Likewise, all of you, breathe gently and stay safer.
And breathe in the nose. I need to practice in and out the nose.
Yeah. Okay, all the best.
Bye.
Bye.